big swings.
Well, here it comes. Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow! In your life, have you seen anything like that?
Big moments.
There it is! Adam Scott, a life changer.
All the news, all the views.
The career Grand Slam belongs to Karrie Webb.
Welcome to the PGA Golf Club.
Hi everyone, I'm Adam White and welcome to the PGA Golf Club, a new podcast on golf. And it's on behalf of all golf professionals, about golf professionals, but also about every player that gets out on the golf course and likes to have fun. So hopefully over the next 45 minutes or so, and hopefully over the next series of podcasts, we can get you to understand the game of golf a little bit better, be better at it, and most importantly, have fun, because golf is such a great game. We've got a panel in here today, and it is a golf club, so we're going to learn a lot more about a lot of people over the next period of time and meet new people. Brendon Goddard is part of our golf club as he joins us this morning. BJ, welcome.
Righty.
Now,
looking forward to this.
I'm gonna. Oh, I know you are. You love golf more than I do, if that's possible. I want to ask you straight up: what got you into golf?
What got me into golf? Well, my dad was a better or more of a golfer than he was any other sportsman. But he got me into golf, and he was actually a anointed superintendent of a little golf course in Gippsland called Toongabbie, where his parents used to live. So I used to go out with Dad in his old HQ Holden Ute. He used to water greens and tees, and I used to belt balls around since I was knee high to a grasshopper. So my love for the game has only grown ever since, but I started at a very young age.
Now, you played 300 games of AFL football, but in a way, footy got in the way of your golf. I think you like golf more than you liked AFL footy. How difficult was it to become the golfer you've become when you were a professional at another sport?
Yeah, my Twitter handle was full-time golfer, part-time footballer. Still is, I think. I haven't changed it. But yeah, no, it's so my love for golf had always been there, but I played predominantly cricket and footy as a junior, so I couldn't play as much golf as I wanted to, so I was literally part-time, and we lived at the back of sporting grounds, so the time I did spend playing golf was mainly bashing around balls there by myself, and we had a spare paddock next to our house as well, so making golf holes and stuff in the paddock. So once I then finished school and got drafted, as we all know, AFL players have too much time on their hands, but my time to play golf and dedicate myself to the golf actually grew exponentially. So, and then from that, my love of all things golf grew, reading more about it, playing with players, good players, architects, everything it kind of escalated. Always had the love, but it wasn't really until I finished school and started playing AFL that I kind of got as much out of as I wanted to. So
you've now finished AFL football. You played your first pennant season in the season just gone. Your handicap, what's your handicap currently?
+2 at the minute.
Which is very handy. And how did you enjoy your first season of pennant?
Yeah, it was really good. I hadn't played a lot of competitive golf. The few rounds I had played is in a couple of club champs back at my old golf club at Yarra Yarra, and making a semi-final once. But in terms of actual competitive golf, it's been restricted to club golf and competition rounds on midday or during the weekend. So to play more of a competitive game, still got the team element to it, playing for Metro this year, or last year, sorry. So it was good to get out there and being retired from football, almost an itch that I still got to scratch with my competitiveness, and then playing a different format of the game in match play, which is always great. So thoroughly enjoyed it, and we'll be playing, which I haven't told my wife yet, but I'll be backing it up this year in my second season at Metro.
Very good. Our other co-host today, I'm really excited that Dale Lynch is in here, one of our leading golf coaches in this country. Dale, thanks very much for coming in.
Pleasure, mate.
Now, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career, particularly as a golf coach, and some of the players that you've coached over your journey.
Well, look, I've been very fortunate to coach some talented kids, I suppose. Jeff Ogilvy winning the US Open, Aaron Baddeley winning the Australian Open as an amateur, likes of Matthew Goggin, Kevin Noah, a couple of international players as well. So my journey has been from coaching juniors going way back in the day, And fortunately, there was a few that were talented enough, and they made it onto the world tour. And I was fortunate enough to just really follow them around the world, actually, as coaching. So it was it was an interesting period in terms of, sort of starting at one point, and then no one in Australia had sort of coached players internationally prior. So it was a whole new experience along the way. So and now we find ourselves, we've sort of set up at a public golf course at Yarra Bend, which we've taken over from the council. We've upgraded the golf course, put a driving range in, we put a big teaching academy in there. We've also put an adventure golf to get families and kids involved in the game. So that's sort of the project now, which is really exciting for us.
So going back, Lynch, how did you get your hands on Bads and Jeff at the very beginning and in such a young age?
Yeah, well, back then, Jeff was, I was state coach back then, so Jeff was in the junior team. So I met Jeff when he was like about 15 at that point. Aaron was a slightly different story. Aaron came to me as a 13-year-old. He was a junior at Croydon, very talented young kid. He came to me with a goal and ambition of being on the PGA Tour when he was 21. So probably those two, introduction in a slightly different area. But again, when you're coaching, you have your private clientele, and then you also have your state coaching role, which then ultimately led into the VIS. We were sort of the inaugural coaches at the VIS back then, Steve Bannon and myself.
So what got you into golf? We talked about BJ and his dad being a golf superintendent at a local golf club. But what about yourself? Where does the love come from?
My step-grandfather, who is actually 91 years of age and plays golf twice a day, every day at Yarrawonga.
Right.
So he's...
great thing about that is you've got a couple of golf courses to choose from every day.
The thing,
45 holes.
Interesting. So Mac was... he had the passion for all sport. He's an interesting story now. I think he's at 91, and he said to me, he rings me up regularly working on his golf game. He'll go to the range in the morning and hit balls, working on his swing or working his short game the old-fashioned way. His own balls, hit them, pick them up, all that sort of stuff. And then goes out and plays. And he's in that era now where it's more about the quality of shots rather than the scores. He doesn't really play any comps, but I pressed him a few times to tell me what sort of scores he's having, and he will shoot about 3 over for 9 holes at 91 years of age. So, but works on his golf game every day. It's quite a brilliant story. But anyway, so he got me started. And I was back then a bit similar. Football and athletics was my passion as a kid. And I was very slow to grow. I was tiny, so I was the smallest in the team and smallest in my class, blah, blah, blah. So golf got me the opportunity of being able to still be competitive, even though I was late to, now I'm 6'2", so it was an interesting time. But golf enabled me to still remain competitive, and that's really where I got my passion for golf.
So were you a good golfer?
Yeah, pretty reasonable. I mean, I was lucky enough to be good at most sports, so sort of took my hand to golf and sort of battled my way. I played, struggled my way around on tour for 6 or 7 years, and then was the failed player turned coach, really.
Right, okay. Interesting story. So Brendon Goddard and Dale Lynch are our co-hosts today for the first episode of the PGA Golf Club. We've got a lot of special guests coming up on our first edition, and none bigger really when it comes to golf in this country than Karrie Webb. So Karrie Webb will be our feature interview today. We're also going to catch up with David Micheluzzi, who is someone that I know you know very well, BJ. He has decided to turn professional just in the last couple of days. So we'll have a chat about David to see what path he will take. But we've also got a very, very special and important guest in the studio, and I speak of the CEO of the PGA of Australia, Gavin Kirkman, who's in with us in the studio. Gavin, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
It's an exciting time, a new project here for the PGA of Australia to get involved in the podcast space, but an opportunity to be able to tell your story about what you're all about and about so many wonderful stories of professional golf.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, and what we want to do is we only exist because of our membership. We're a member organisation. We own and operate the PGA Tour of Australasia that's represented and sponsored by ISPS Hander, but we have 2,900 PGA professionals across all areas of our business, vocational and tour, and we want to promote what they do, the men and women out there, grow the game, play the game, service the game, and also manage the game.
Because it's one of those things that, and Dale knows all about this, that we often think of the top liners that are playing, like Cam Percy and Mark Leishman. We're following those two this morning on the PGA Tour. But there's plenty out there that are at golf clubs right around Australia that are making all of us, hackers, be better golfers if that's possible.
I think so. And what the PGA is all about is we want to provide the opportunity for everyone to benefit from the game of golf. And that's whether you play the game, whether you manage the game, whether it's part of your business. Showcase the game through Adam Scott, Jason Day, Leishman, Cam Smith, all the greats out there. We have over 140 of our professionals playing on tours all around the world. And they're out there representing the country, representing our organisation. But then at the heartbeat of the game, where Dale's representing and doing a great job with his team at Yarra Bend, they're coaching the game, they're growing the game. And probably something we want to do more and more is to promote our membership and what we do for the game, working in collaboration with all other parts of the industry.
Because we think straight away, I think both Dale and BJ of the PGA is just representing the players, but it's not just the players, it's the coaches, and sometimes the players are coaches.
Yeah, very true. And I think that ultimately as the PGA is about growing the game. I mean, going way back, when you first joined as a PGA member, that is your primary goal, is to actually grow the game of golf. So that's really what the PGA is about.
Just on that, Gab, what are you now doing as an organisation to grow the game? So now it's your first podcast, you're getting involved in the media stream, but what other
media
ways...
Street for Gavin.
Media Street, yeah. What other ways you help growing the game through media?
Yeah, we've just got to get out there and what the PGA have changed a little bit, and we've just worked on a new strategic plan, is we want the people following golf to be fans of golf. And a fan of golf is just someone playing the game. I had my first AFL grand final experience on the weekend. I'm a Queenslander. But what frustrates us as a sport is you've got so many, living in Melbourne the past 8 years, so many passionate fans for AFL. But not all of those fans play AFL. And I think where golf has come for a long time is we've attracted fans who play the game. We want to attract fans who don't play the game to get engaged with the game. And if that's by the way we showcase our events, and we're doing things very differently, the way we, the formats, innovation, and through our professionals at golf clubs now coaching the game a little bit different with technology, and just creating different ways to play the game, being more progressive, more innovative, and calling golf fans, instead of golfers, a traditional golfer, let's call them fans of the game. And then if they end up playing the game, that's going to be a real bonus. But let's just get them engaged with the game. And we've got a very busy summer of golf coming up with 8 great events in Australia on our tour, and that's going to be a way where you'll see we'll do things a little bit different this summer. Again, working in with all the industry, not just the PGA, to make sure we showcase our players and the game of golf.
So you talked about the fact that there's, I think it's 14 tour events over the course of the year if you factor in New Zealand as well. And I think Fiji might be thrown in the mix there too. But I'm interested a little bit more about the Pro-Ams because, I follow it on Twitter, and you see every week it seems to be a different Pro-Am, and the professionals seem to be all over Australia. But there's some 400 over the course of the year.
There's 400 being played all around the country, and they're playing opportunities for our members. They're creating an experience out there, and they do give a good experience to have, 4 to 5 hours inside the ropes with the PGA professional playing under tournament conditions. It's a lot of fun, but those young men and women out playing, those Pro-Ams, are out there honing their game, getting their game stronger to get onto a tour event, whether it's on the Australasian tour or in China or in Asia or in Europe, eventually onto the PGA Tour or the Corn Ferry Tour in the States. But they're just creating that experience to play, but they're also giving a great experience on the course and off the course as well.
And just finally, before we let you go, David Micheluzzi is about to join us. Just your alignment now much closer with the male and the female game.
Yeah, it is. We're working very, very hard with the Australian ladies professional golf. We want to ensure that as a sport and professional sport, that our alignment and services are second to none. So we're working with the board of the ALPG as well as Karen Lunn, their executive, and to see events like the Vic Open the last few years, and it's gone to another level in 2019, and it'll be another great event in 2020. But we want to promote men and women professional golfers all around the country. It's important. Karrie Webb, who you've got on the show soon, is an honorary member of the PGA of Australia. I think professional golf across men and women, and to see the superstars coming to the forefront of the game at the moment is very important.
Absolutely. Gav, thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. And thank you for supporting this podcast. And hopefully plenty will listen and plenty will get something out of the game of golf.
No, Adam, we're really excited to be working with you and the team here, and we're looking forward to the next 12 weeks.
Terrific. Gavin Kirkman, the CEO of the PGA of Australia, joining us in the studio. A short break, and David Micheluzzi, hasn't he got a story to tell? He'll join us next.
RSN Podcast, all your favourite RSN shows and loads of new programs. You can listen or download wherever, whenever. And now we're on iHeartRadio, the world's #1 radio and podcast app.
RSN Podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts and at rsn.net.au. And now on iHeartRadio. It's free at your app store or head to iHeart.com.
The PGA is giving you the chance to win the ultimate golf experience worth $20,000. Visit ultimategolfexperience.pga.org.au for the chance for you and a mate to win the golf trip of a lifetime. Attend the final day of the President's Cup at Royal Melbourne before travelling to the Gold Coast to get the full VIP experience at the Australian PGA Championship. You'll be treated like the stars and get the chance to meet Australian golfing legend Adam Scott, as well as attend Australian Golf's Night of Nights, the Greg Norman Medal. As part of the experience, the winner will also take part in the Ultimate Tour Club fitting at the Titleist Fitting Centre in Melbourne and take home the latest high-tech performance golf apparel from FootJoy. It's truly the ultimate golf experience. Head to ultimategolfexperience.pga.org.au to enter. That's ultimategolfexperience.pga.org.au.
Well, one of the big talking points in golf in this country over the last week or so has been around David Micheluzzi and whether he will turn professional after his last event over in China or whether he would stay as an amateur. And it kind of depended on how he went in China. Well, we can now know that he didn't win, so does that mean he's going to become a professional? He joins us now from China to tell us. David, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Thank you for getting up nice and early for us for a chat. Tell us, what have you decided to do post the tournament?
So myself, my manager Ben Harrison and Gavin Kirkman have organised some tournaments that I can play for the next couple of months as a professional, so I'll be most likely making my debut at the WAPGA.
Fantastic.
And that's always been the plan, Dave? What has been the plan, or what was the plan pending the last week's result?
The plan, it was always going to be after this event. Obviously, wanted to play the Aussie Summer as a pro, and if I won the Asian Am and got into the Masters and the Open, I would have just played the Masters and then played the rest of the year as a pro. Which
you're allowed to do now because they have recently changed that, so you have to play the Masters as an amateur.
I have to play the Masters as an amateur.
Yeah, but then you can turn pro after that and then play the Open as a... Yeah.
So, I mean, was it a difficult decision? Obviously, you've been a high-ranked amateur player in the world for quite some time, but it is a big jump to go from amateur to professional. Are you nervous about it? Are you excited? How much time did you take from a timing perspective?
More excited than nervous. There's a bit of nerves there, obviously, with all the little things that I need to do. But yeah, I think the time was right. This time last year, I was thinking about turning pro, but I felt like the game just wasn't quite there. So I was pretty happy I did one more year. I've just matured a lot over this last year with playing quite a few big pro events. Like I've never played an Aussie Open before until last year, so got a great insight of that. Got to play the Vic Open this year, which was the European Tour event. So, definitely happy I stayed amateur for one more year, and I feel like I'm about ready to take that leap.
David, Dale Lynch here, mate. Congrats and good luck on your future career as a professional golfer. Just interested, you mentioned the Vic Open being a co-sanctioned European Tour event. You didn't mention anything about Europe this year, so you're not going to Q School in Europe?
Yeah, I actually am. Sorry. I'm going in November, so I get to skip first stage, which is quite fortunate, being high up in the rankings. So yeah, that makes life a little bit easier. Hopefully, I can stay the full 3 weeks there and hopefully get my card.
So you talked about having an extra year preparing to become pro, but what are some other things, both physically, mentally, or in your golf game that you've actually done to prepare yourself? Because you got, as you mentioned, got a good insight into professional golf, the Vic Open, Australian Open, so you've got to get up close, personal with those guys and seeing what you're up against if you were turning professional. So what have you done to prepare yourself?
Kind of done... nothing's really changed. It's just more staying on top of the little things, like just simple daily drills to keep my body in the same shape it was at home, eating great, mapping courses. Just like this week, I had Marty Joyce in the bag, who's my coach, and we kind of played this week like I was a pro. So I tried to save shots if I was in the jungle, which there was a couple of times there was. Not going for the hero shot and just chipping out and just making, trying to save power and make a bogey instead of bringing a double or triple into play. So just little things. Like, I think there's not really like there's no real secret. I think I haven't found the secret yet, but no real secret to really going, okay, this is what I need to do to get to number one in the world, or I need to change this, I need to change this. It's just more staying on top of the little things.
So that's it. You're professional now. It's going to be an exciting time for you, David. Thanks very much for joining us. Good luck, and hopefully we see you on the top of the leaderboard in the weeks to come.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
And David Micheluzzi joining us there, or Micheluzzi joining us there, as Brendon Goddard laughs in the background. You know him very well, so you just naturally becomes, I feel it should be David Micheluzzi.
Well,
but he said it's David Micheluzzi, so I've got to get used to it. Yep. Anyway, he's a professional now on tour. We talked before about just a little bit of news around. We should recognise what Mark Leishman and Cameron Percy have done in the Safeway Open. It just looked there for a while that Cameron Percy was going to put all sorts of pressure on. He finished his final round 5 under to finish at 12 under and a tie for 7th. Mark Leishman finishing inside the top 3 as well. So, Dale, what Cam Percy's doing, so this late career renaissance is quite extraordinary since he regained his tour card from the secondary tour.
Yeah, particularly after having that bad injury last year. So it is interesting. I mean, it's interesting with golfers that sometimes they play the best golf in their 40s, and hopefully Perce is one of those. He's been out there for a long, long time. Yeah, I mean, he came through with Jeff and all those at the VS, going back in the day, played state golf with Jeff. Not sure, he may play for Australia as well in that era. So.
Why is it that they figure it out, or why is it they play the best golf in their 40s? Obviously, physically, they're on the decline.
Yeah, true. Well, I guess it's actually understanding their game. And I know that seems strange that it takes that long and you play golf for that long, but just actually understanding themselves and understand them go. Like a Dave McKenzie who's playing the Champions Tour, and I've worked with Macca since, probably too many years to say, but like 30 years. And he's in a far better place in terms of knowing how to, his entire preparation. He's in so much better space now. It took him till he was 50 to probably figure it out,
Well, Cam talked about how his kids have got right into golf, and he's just been walking around with his kids, just hitting 100-yard shots into greens, and he'd been doing that a lot more, and he's found that his wedge play has become so much better that he's now having 10-foot looks at birdies rather than 15 or 16 feet. And when you get to that level, sometimes that's your 3 or 4 shots you pick up per tournament. That is the difference between making the cut and maybe fishing top 20.
Yeah, it's a great story though.
It's so good to see.
Because his career looked gone,
and he thought that too. And I wonder whether that mental sort of release of pressure. It's sort of like, I'm in bonus time now. I can kind of enjoy it a bit more. Yeah. And I don't know. It is an amazing story.
He'd be a good one to interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's Whitey's good mate, but they send tips to one another for the
NFL tips.
NFL tips. He's got him on the book.
Handy. Very handy. Especially
what it also done is that let's talk about like his retirement fund and stuff that these golfers get. Like, I understand that he's recently, his last time on tour, just qualified for this retirement fund. But I'm just saying the ease of pressure. It's like now essentially like life after golf is kind of a lot easier.
Yeah.
So now mentally you can just go out and play golf and for kind of the love of the game again, as you did when you were a kid, and not have to stress as much about what maybe potentially lies. Because golf is, it's pretty volatile. out on US tour and be working in a pro shop 2 years later.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough, particularly if you get, where they change the rule, if you have card on a PGA tour and you finish outside 200, say 201 or something, then you finish up with, if you haven't won out there, you've got no status anywhere. So you go playing on the biggest stage to having nowhere to play. As you said, in 12 months of, like poor form.
Sometimes you wonder why they take so long to put those 6-foot putts in, and then you realise the pressure that they're under. We need to take a break here, and we are really looking forward to catching up with, it is golfing royalty here in this country. In fact, it's golfing royalty worldwide. Karrie Webb, she's going to be our special guest on our first episode of the PGA Golf Club. That's next.
The Sonic $1 Million Hole returns at December's Australian PGA Championship. This time, 15 lucky golfers will get the opportunity to tee up head-to-head against the pros for a chance to win $1 million on the Par 3 16. Entrants will be flown to RACV Royal Pines Resort on the Gold Coast and take part in the competition in Round 3 on Saturday, 21 of December. The Sonic $1 Million Hole competition will see an amateur contestant aligned with each group of professionals in the field at the PGA Championships Party Hole, the 16th. Professionals will have the opportunity to tee off first, followed by the amateur with the aim of scoring a lucrative ace. Head to championship.pga.org.au, click on the What's On tab, then select Sonic $1 Million Hole.
RSN Podcast, all your favourite RSN shows and loads of new programs. You can listen or download wherever, whenever. And now we're on iHeartRadio, the world's #1 radio and podcast app.
RSN Podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts and at rsn.net.au. And now on iHeartRadio. It's free at your app store or head to iHeart.com.
Her record is pretty incredible if you look at it, and to qualify for the Hall of Fame by the age of 25 is just really remarkable.
This girl's going to be around for a while.
From early on in the season, it was clear Karrie Webb was the LPGA's Rolex Player of the Year.
This has to be the sweetest. Her first major.
The career Grand Slam belongs to Karrie Webb.
Karrie Webb's journey to the World Golf Hall of Fame began in the small Australian coastal farming town of Ayr, where a young Karrie first picked up a club and determined she would become one of the greatest golfers the world had ever seen.
She was fearless. Karrie came along and brought a new kind of charisma to the LPGA.
Karrie has such great natural ability that her future was pretty much set in stone. I'm not surprised that she just bulldozed her way at such an early age, really. I think she's one of the consummate golfers that's ever played the game.
She burst onto the LPGA Tour scene equipped with an innate ability, an unwavering work ethic, and an inimitable passion for the game. Karrie Webb's storied 1996 rookie season has become the standard by which other rookies are judged, winning in only her second event as a pro and finishing the season with a total of 4 victories and Rookie of the Year honors.
Yes, it's such an amazing honour roll Karrie Webb has managed to make for herself over the course of her career, and we're lucky enough to have her on our program, our first program of the PGA Golf Club from the United States. Karrie, thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for having me on for a chat.
Now, we were just listening to some of your achievements over your career. It's pretty scary. 57 wins, 7 major championships in the Hall of Fame at the age of 25. Have you had a chance to sort of sit back and reflect on what you have been able to achieve?
Oh, yeah, certainly. Especially, obviously as I've gotten older. And, I've been able to look back and really appreciate what I achieved, but also that real purple patch I had, late 90s, early 2000s. When you're in the midst of it, I think you sort of take it for granted, and, even though it doesn't feel like it's coming easy at the time, it really did come relatively easy, and, the putts went in, and, you got the right kicks at the right time, and was able to continue to play good week in and week out.
And how did it sit with you, not just the amount of times you won and being number one in the world and all those sorts of things, but almost the pressure to perform? We often think about when Greg Norman came back here when he was at his absolute best, that everyone had just expected him to win because he was seen as the best. What was it like when you were coming back to Australia? Because you had no issue with winning, but could you enjoy it?
Yeah, I think early on in my career, I didn't enjoy it as much. Like there was, that little bit of extra pressure, but I think it was more the extra commitment, not just to do with the tournament, but, I had more family and friends that were there, and the weeks just seemed so busy. And then on top of that, I had to, I was expected to play well. So, the first handful of years, I probably didn't enjoy it as much as I should have, but as the years went on, I realised how great it was to have that support and home field advantage, when it wasn't like that for me for the rest of the year. So, I did learn to appreciate it, and I think that's why I continued to win in Australia, because I really did love coming home and playing on the great courses that we got to play, some of the Australian Opens on, and obviously up at Royal Pines as well.
Karrie, did you realise the impact you're having on not only golf in Australia, but in particular women's golf? Me growing up, you were the only, with respect to everyone else, the only women's golfer that I knew. I'm 34 now, but did you realise the impact you were having on golf and women's golf in Australia?
I think when you're in the midst of it, you don't think about it as much. It probably wasn't until I started the Karrie Webb series with Golf Australia, and just the stories that the young girls tell you, that their first memory of watching me, and that's sort of the memories I have of the first ever time I watched the Masters was the 86 Masters when Greg lost to Jack Nicklaus. So, you just have those sorts of memories about your heroes, and so I guess it wasn't really until then that I really understood the impact that I had.
So, Karrie, is there one win that is more special than any other?
Oh, it's really hard to pick one. I think I've had a lot of great moments. Fortunately, I've been very lucky to won in different ways and won lots of big tournaments. I think the one that comes to me as far as the emotion that I felt when I won was when I won the 2006 Kraft Nabisco. You hold a wedge on the last, and at the time when I I thought I'd hold it to win, and then in the end I ended up in a playoff with Lorena Ochoa and won on the first hole of the playoff. So, just the fashion that I won it. 2005, the year before, was my first year on the LPGA Tour that I hadn't won. I'd won the Australian Masters at the beginning of the year, but it wasn't an LPGA event. So that was my first year without a win. So to have won it in that fashion, it was just sort of a build-up of frustration and the hard work all sort of paying off in one moment.
I want to go all the way back. We were talking at the very start of the show as to why we got into golf. What got you into the game?
My parents and grandparents took up golf right around when I was born. So all four of them were pretty avid club members, and growing up in Ayr, it's the only golf course, but it's just a country club, and it was just Mum and Dad would play on a Saturday afternoon, and then we'd stay at grandparents' place, and then at 5 o'clock they'd bring us out, and Mum and Dad would be in the clubhouse having a couple of drinks, and it was just a young club at the time, so there was plenty of kids my age, and we'd just run around and have a great time, and I guess it was just the atmosphere of being at the golf club that made me want to play golf.
And were you good at it early? Like, did you kind of know, or did your parents know that, you've got something a bit special here, or did it take a while for your game to develop?
I guess I was pretty good at every stage, and I had a very natural swing right from the start. I think I'm pretty good at mimicking what I watch on TV. So, yep. I think I'd watched enough golf that my swing was pretty natural. It was the same with I could bowl a cricket ball, and no one had ever really showed me. It was just from watching it on TV. So, it was just sort of something that came naturally to me. And I played a bunch of other sports, but golf was the one that I knew I could put in all the hard work and get all the benefit out of it, and not not have to rely on others.
I'm sure Dale's got some questions around your swing because it is one of the great golf swings. But just one final one on just growing up, and you're saying you're mimicking what you see on television. Who were your heroes growing up? Because I think we're now in this state of golf where there are so many young women that are coming through that have got so many golfers that they can now emulate because there's so many near the top of the tree. What was it like for you growing up?
Yeah, well, it is that saying, you can't be what you can't see. And, I got into trouble with Jan Stevenson when I first came on tour because I was asked if I had looked up to her, and I didn't really because there was no women's coverage in Australia. The only tournaments I watched was the Australian Summer of men's golf and then the 4 majors. I think it was Golf Australia magazine or one of the golf magazines. They reposted my letter. I wrote them a letter when I was about 12. Asking for them to at least include women's golf scores and more women's golf content because it was just lacking. And today at least kids can, if they can't see it, they can see it on the internet. But I wasn't that fortunate. So for me, growing up, it was the guys. Greg Norman. I love Seve. There was a bunch of guys I like. Curtis Strange. It was all the guys. I didn't have any females that I really looked up to.
Karrie, could you give us just some detail? I know your background as far as the coaching went, but I'm sure people are interested in the coach you had back home and then the transition from that to Triggsy later on. Could you give us just a background of how that all transpired for you at home? Yeah, well,
growing up, when I first started playing, we only had a club pro probably for my first 6 months, and then we didn't have a club pro again for, I don't know, maybe 10 years. I'd already shown a keen interest to playing, and Mum and Dad weren't, they were just, average golfers. They didn't really know how to teach me. And one of their good friends, Calvin Heller, who was one of the better players in the club. He'd won the club championships a few times, and they just asked him to, keep an eye on me. It wasn't anything formal when I first started, but as the years went on, a couple of years after I'd started, he ended up being the head greenkeeper at the golf club. So he was out there all the time anyway. So sort of just turned into where he was my coach and was my only coach through 2003. I think I started working with Triggsy. So through all the best part of my career, Calvin was my only coach, and his parents owned one of the local news agencies, and that's where he worked until he was the greenkeeper, and he learned all his golf knowledge from golf magazines and reading the magazines while he was at work.
That's amazing.
So that's how he taught me. Just was mainly based on just the basics and timing, and obviously just developing the natural swing that I had. And then when I was 16, he became a quadriplegic, and still was, because we'd worked together since I was young. We were able to still have a working relationship. Obviously it was all verbal, and he wasn't able to physically show me anything, but we were able to manage to do that. And then when I turned pro, it was just sort of the start of the internet, so we started videoing swings and emailing him, and that now when you can do a live FaceTime lesson with your coach on the other side of the world, it was me taking video, going home, downloading it on my computer, emailing it, and then him seeing it and then getting back to me. It was like a 2-day process. So, there was a lot of obstacles in the way, but it worked. It worked great, and the reason why I ended up working with Triggsy was he could see that Calvin and I were working on some changes, and I was only seeing Calvin a couple of times a year, so he could see me struggling on the range when he was over working with Rachel Hetherington, and I'd known Triggsy since I was 13 or 14, and he offered to help us. So that's, what I've loved and always appreciated about Triggsy is that, he didn't have the ego of he was just my coach. He knew that Calvin was always going to be a part of that. And so that's, I would never have gone to work with anyone if they didn't allow Calvin to be involved.
That is an amazing story.
Yeah, so we've heard about your future, Karrie. What about now, and what about the future for yourself?
Yeah, just sort of in a bit of a transition period, I think. Still, the last couple of years I've played part-time. The good thing about the last couple of years is that I at least got a bit of an appreciation back for what I've done for the last 25 years. Just the actual process of being out on tour and competing rather than, it all being results-oriented. Obviously, I don't want to be out there if I'm not competitive, and, I wasn't very competitive this year. So just sort of working out what I'm going to do, how much I'm going to play. I still want to, I don't think the competitive part of me, which is what pretty much got me to where I was, is never going to go away. I think you're always going to want to do that. It's just the desire to put in the work that's required, and, playing part-time. I'm never far away. Like, the results this year weren't great, but, it was just not that far. It wasn't like I was missing cuts by 15 or whatever. I'd missed a cut by 1 or 2. So, it wasn't that far away, but, not... I feel like I struggle to have the standard mentally that I need because I'm not playing full-time. So I just have to work out, what it is I want to do going forward.
So when you're not playing tournaments, do you play much? Do you practice much? Or do you kind of leave the clubs in the garage? What's it like when you're not sort of week in, week out on the tour?
Yeah, well, that's been the adjustment because I've always been a worker and a grinder. But if I was gonna grind in between tournaments, I might as well go out and play because I don't really love practicing. I just know that I have to do it. And so if I was going to be grinding and not playing, then that'd just drive me crazy. So it was, taking time where there was no golf, and then when it was still a little ways off from a tournament, just maybe a couple of days, 3 days a week, and playing more rather than just standing on the range and grinding. Just make it more enjoyable. And then, the last couple of years, I played blocks of tournaments. So, in amongst that, then I was just into my normal routine of, practice and working out and all of that stuff that I did. But I just knew I was only doing it for 3 months, not 12 months. So it was easier to get my head around.
We're talking to Karrie Webb on our PGA Golf Club podcast. Gabby Ruffles, Hannah Green, Minjee Lee, Suo. There's so many good young players coming through. Certainly Hannah is the headline act with what she's been able to do this year. How proud are you of her and just the state of women's golf at the moment, Karrie?
Yeah, really proud. I think, there's a great group of young girls coming through, and, hopefully it being 3 or 4 of them, they don't have all the burden on just one person, and also that there's more than one person for a young girl or boy to look up to. I think it's great that there's a few girls playing well. Hannah this year's had a fantastic breakout year. I was fortunate enough to have missed the cut by 1 at the KPMG LPGA Championship, and I got to watch her play her final round, and it was impressive. The mental, especially the mental side of how she carried herself. It looked like she'd been there 100 times. So I feel like that's going to carry her in good stead for many years to come. Just the way her demeanour is on the golf course, and how, the 2 tournaments she's won this year, she's made 2 clutch putts on the last to win. That you can't teach that. That's just inbred in you, and just comes naturally. Some people either excel in it, and some people don't. She's one that obviously has it in her to be clutch in those important moments.
So, Karrie, Dale again, you've been in a situation where you've got, women's golf is in a very healthy state, and as said, Hannah's performance is sort of the highlight there. But could you give us just a brief overview of not only you as being a role model for these young girls and coming up and the career that you've had, but also what you do for women's golf in Australia in the background? Could you just give us just a bit of a brief update on what you do in that space?
Yeah, well, we've been doing it since 2000. 2007 was when the series started, and 2008 was the first trip over for the two winners. So it's a series of events that Golf Australia run. Well, they partner with me in it, and they facilitate the point system. It's like a Player of the Year's point system. So it's some of their top amateur events as well as some of the professional events that they'll play in, and it's all based on their finishes. And the top two players at the end of the year, at the top of that list, are awarded a scholarship to help with travel and coaching, etc. And the part that I have enjoyed the most and I think is the coolest is that they, the two of them get to travel to the States, and they've come to the US Open for the first part, for the majority of it, but the last 2 years has been at the WPGA Championship, where Hannah won this year, and actually we were all staying in the same house. So Hannah and Suo and myself, and then Becky Kay and Grace Kim were the two series winners this year. So all of us were in the same rented house for the week. So it was even more special for the girls, for Becky and Grace this year, because they got to see what it was like to win a major championship as well. So and enjoy the celebrations on the Sunday night.
Well, Karrie, we really appreciate your time. It's been awesome to spend nearly 20 minutes talking to you. We could clearly talk to you for a lot longer, but I'll get in trouble from our producer. But one final one, as I said, this whole podcast is about golf fans learning more about the game, so hopefully they can enjoy it more and hopefully get a bit better. I'm going to put you on the spot. If you had to come up with a couple of things to say, to particularly to young golfers coming through, what would be some of the advice you'd give them?
Well, I think it's got to be fun. Golf's hard enough to play. If as it is, if you don't enjoy it, it's going to be even more difficult. So just be out there and have fun and enjoy the challenges of golf. And that it's all about setting your own goals and achieving what you personally want to achieve out of golf. I try and instill that in my 12-year-old niece, is that it's not always about winning in golf. It's about, shooting your best 9 holes or your best 18 holes or lowering your handicap. That's what I think's great about golf, is you might not be holding the trophy up at the end of the day, but you might have shot a personal best score. And that's what I think's great about golf.
Terrific, Karrie, and we've appreciated you spending some time with us today on our first edition of the PGA Golf Club. Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So that was pretty special. Karrie Webb with us on the program. BJ, what did you think of that? I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, no, as I said, I grew up and I only knew about Karrie Webb as the only female or best female golfer, the only one I took notice of anyway, she being Australian. But to get a backstory on how she grew up and played golf and how she got into it, the transition from coaches, I'd never heard that about Karrie before. You
kind of forget 57 professional wins and 7 major championships. Dale, what did you like about her swing when she was at her absolute best? What sort of set her apart?
It was just simple. It was just a really simple balanced motion. I was fortunate enough, because I was in the high performance area back then, when she was a junior, and she came down and played against some of our girls in the VS squad at times, and you could tell that she was an absolute standout. She was probably about 17 or something then. It was really obvious that she approached the game, but she approached it much more like the men approached it, and she was very, very aggressive, had all the shots, great touch. She just had it all. So it was always interesting to sit back and just wait and see.
Do you get nervous? She mentioned it today. Do you get nervous when the best players decide to start tinkering with their swing, or do you embrace it because it's all about trying to get better?
Not nervous as long as they're working on their swing in the right areas with the right people. I mean, and she was working, and I knew the story with Kevin, and then Triggsy, and knowing Triggsy really well, you know that he's not going to be fiddling in areas that are going to be detrimental. There's always, I suppose, in some ways, a bit of a fine line. The Tiger Woods story would be an interesting one to talk about at a later date, but as to how far you push and where you are trying to improve, the players are always trying to get better. So there's always, I guess, outside looking, you think, well, why are they tinkering when they're so good? But it's just by nature with golf, you're always trying to get better. Because if you don't, then you're going to get overtaken. So, nervous for me? No, it just depends on who they're working with, I suppose, and what they're actually working on.
All right, I want to ask you about Cameron Champ. We'll do that shortly, but Craig Spence is going to be a big part of the PGA Golf Club as well. He's working currently down at Albert Park, and unfortunately, we all get into bunkers too much, and he's got a bit of a tip on how to get out of them a little bit better than perhaps the way we do at the moment.
Hi everyone, Craig Spence, PGA coach and coach down at the Albert Park driving range. Tip today is about bunkers and how to practice bunkers properly. So one of the best ways to practice bunker shots is to use sand and take the ball out of the equation, right? So I'm going to draw a couple of circles here, and I'm going to lay the club open so I sit it back on its trail edge or on its bounce, yes? And I'm going to splash the sand. And I'm going to keep splashing, practicing splashing, until I can splash that sand out of that circle. I don't want to hit before the circle, obviously. I don't want to hit afterwards. Now we're trying to land the club on its back, on its sole, not using the leading edge. It's one of the few shots in golf where we do that. Lob shots and bunker shots. You'll also notice that I get quite low and wide in my stance, right? And my ball position, or the circle position, would be up near my front foot. Now, once I've done a bit of splashing, put the ball in the circle and have a crack. Good luck with the bunkers.
So there you go. There's a very important lesson on how to get out of bunkers from Craig Spence. Now, I wanted to, while we've got you in here, Dale, as one of the leading golf coaches here in this country, I wanted to talk to you about Cameron Champ, because he's done really well this week and he's got this amazing swing and hits the ball extraordinary distances. But he's not on his own. There's lots of them. Have you been surprised at the distance the players are now getting out there? I mean, he's averaging well over 300 yards now off the tee.
Well, not surprising. Basically, is that since the change in equipment, and we know that the ball goes further and the drivers are bigger, etc. But the biggest story to this is that the development stage of golf. If we're using, say, like a Jeff Ogilvy, we were sort of chatting off air about before, is that when Jeff developed his game, is that the ball, you would never swing the club flat out because you're always worried about the curvature of the ball. So it's all about controlling the ball flight and controlling the spin on the ball. Whereas these days, because the ball doesn't spin and the heads are so much bigger, that players are actually developing their game swinging it flat out, right? So therefore, if they develop their game swinging it flat out, once they do develop into players, they're going to hit the ball a whole lot further. So this is there's just going to be a constant wave now of these really long, powerful hitters because, one, if they're good, strong athletes anyway, they've got equipment they're developing the game going at 100%, then by the time they get through to the pointy end, they're just going to hit the ball a long, long way.
So if you've got a young 14-year-old coming through that looks like they're going to make it but doesn't have that distance, can they keep up with the pack, or do they now have to be able to hit the ball that sort of distance?
They don't have this. Things that nature will take them so far. There are obviously some strength and conditioning things that they can work on to make themselves bigger and stronger. But it is true there will be players out there that won't hit the ball as far as has been throughout the game. But the gap is just bigger between those who hit the ball a long way and those who don't. They'll still be able to compete. They just got to be better at the closer to the green. They're going to be better wedge players and better putters, etc., etc. But there will be events. There will be events where they won't be able to compete. It's going to be course setups, if you like. So depending on the course setup as to whether they can compete against the power hitters or not. So a lot will come down. It's just the gap is just going to be bigger now.
So how has that changed your coaching approach and with younger guys these days with their mentality? I assume a 14-year-old now is coming to see you to wants to hit the ball further and wants to know about his TrackMan numbers and wants to know spin rate and club head speed. So how has your approach changed to coaching because of this?
Good question.
Well, probably the approach hasn't changed as much as a good golf swing, still a good golf swing. But they will naturally just hit the ball flat out. I mean, and you coach them now to hit it hard. We want you to hit the ball a long way. You do actually coach them to hit the ball hard and hit it a long way.
So that's obviously different to what you were coaching 15 years ago.
Absolutely,
20 years
because
ago.
it was all about control. So it was all about, a lot of it was about shot shaping and control of your spin and control of your trajectory and yada, yada, yada. Whereas now, get out there and hit it hard.
And that's what they want, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So you're just giving them what they want.
Correct.
So then things have to change. And what about the new age golfers? Are they so kind of TrackMan numbers orientated?
They can be. I think that it's still, golf still isn't played indoors, so there's still an element of understanding and knowing your game and the game. So they're certainly leaning more towards that side, but there's still the game of golf, and there's still ball flight and feel of the flight and feel of the game that will still set them apart, if that makes sense. You can get guys down on a TrackMan on a flat tee and away they go, and the guy who wins that contest may not be the person who's going to win the tournament the next day. So there still is the blend of the power, but the blend of the quality of the ball flight and the quality and feel of the game itself.
Very interesting. Before we let you go, a thing that I'm very keen to do on this show is for everyone that comes in, they've got to nominate a hidden gem golf course, one that not sort of Brendon Goddard sort of stuff where you just come out with Metropolitan and Kingston Heath and all these sorts of things. Perhaps one off the radar a little bit that you've played.
Don't be jealous. There's a bit of jealousy in that.
I've played them, but there's other golf courses as well.
Yeah.
But for you, Dale, if you had to nominate one sort of not off the beaten track, but maybe perhaps one a little bit from left field, what would it be?
Well, for golfers that I work with that ask that question about they want to go and play a fun golf course that maybe they've never played before, and for those in the know will know about this, but I think Port Fairy is a wonderful experience of golf. I remember going down there before it was even 18 holes, and it was still great fun, and now it is. So that's always one that I put up there. I'll put that up there right at the top.
Have you played at Port Fairy?
No,
a bit far away from
it. It is very far. I'm keen to.
Well, for those
Warrnambool,
that don't know,
Port Fairy,
down,
it's
fantastic
4
golf.
hours.
That's okay. I'd absolutely go 4 hours to play.
I've got 2
around
kids
golf
these days, mate.
I've got 3.
Yeah.
No dramas. No dramas at all. Okay, so Port Fairy, we're going to write a list. We might
What's
post
yours?
A list. No, I'm not doing mine at the moment. I'm going.
Oh, the man that's played 120 in Victoria. How many golf courses are in Victoria?
I think there's close to 200.
And you've played
116, 117.
117.
So I'm still got a fair way to go.
Yeah,
that's good.
But Port Fairy is one of my favourites. Absolutely, it is. That and Warrnambool down there are 2 dramatic golf courses. But beautiful terrain down there, and if you haven't played Port Fairy, it is one that you absolutely have to go and play one day. I'm very disappointed you haven't played it, BJ.
No, and another one that springs to mind that is not many people know is they have a golf course, but it's at Hillsville RACV Club.
Yes.
So that's a great little fun golf course, designed and restored or restoration by Ogilvy, Clayton, Cocking, Mead Design. Mainly Clates, I think, but it's great fun. You can go down there. That's a golf course. You literally take 4 or 5 clubs and go and play. And if you play that every day, you wouldn't get bored.
So is that your nomination?
As a little hidden gem, yeah. It's not 18 holes. It's like 12 holes or something. Might be 9 holes.
No, it's more.
It's more?
I'm pretty sure it's 18.
It's 18?
Yeah.
It's 18 holes.
Yeah.
A couple are out of play when we played it, so it's great fun.
Yep. All right, there's your 2 nominations. I'll write those down. We'll get a big list, and then
you might have to be a member at RACV to get on there.
No, you don't. No. You can go and play there.
Get on there.
Yep. Thanks very much, Dale, for coming in and being part of the first ever episode.
Pleasure. Good fun.
And BJ, thank you. We'll see you again next week, and I hope everyone has enjoyed our first episode of the PGA Golf Club. Thanks to our friends at the PGA, and it's got to be said that chat with Karrie Webb was pretty cool. I'm still can't stop thinking about it.
Old fanboy over there.
Absolutely, unashamed. We'll catch you next week with another edition of the PGA Golf Club.